you find yourself picking countries or picking cities?
Yes.
Okay, okay. Both of them, huh?
Yeah. So some, we want to do a new country and we'll pick usually the capital city just because you want to see the capital, and then one other city that's, super desirable. Like in Morocco, it was Fez or Marrakesh. But then we also stopped in Rabat, the capital. Um, and then like Spain, we just want to visit. We just want to go back and visit every region of Spain, and we still have 3 or 4 regions we haven't even touched yet. So
Yeah, Spain is a beautiful country. I've been also lucky to see a lot of it, but there's just not enough. It's just such wherever you go is wonderful.
yeah,
I know Madrid really well. I know Malaga and the Costa del Sol, although from Malaga all the way to Gibraltar, fairly well. And then of
yep,
course that northern region. Um,
yeah. We haven't touched Galicia or Asturias. So
Yeah, yeah, you gotta get some pulpo a la gallega, some octopus up there
mm,
with Albarino wine. That
yeah.
is absolutely fantastic. There. Let me ask you, what would you tell? What is the minimum requirement? Uh, Somebody is listening to this right now and says, "Well, you know what? I want to try this. What do they need?"
Um, Motivation. Um, 6 months of savings at least. Some people do work away and odd jobs and online jobs to supplement everything. So if you've got a skill that can do work remotely, that's kind of the dream, especially if you're younger. You can get going, right away. But just the desire, because if you have the desire to do it, then you'll learn and you'll figure it out. You might have to, the time value of money. Start saving as early as you possibly can. There's no substitute for that, but you can still, make trade-offs now and do with less now, save it, and then spend that in a few years. So, but like I said, there's as many ways to do it as there are people doing it. So,
Is there anything in the past 4 years that as you were going through the process of stop working to start traveling full time, that looking back you would have done differently?
we would have gotten rid of all of our stuff sooner
Oh,
because we
yeah.
because we ended up paying, quite a bit for storage for stuff that we ended up we took us 2.5 years to get back to the U.S. So we were paying month to
Uh,
month for 2.5 years for that stuff. So that was, that added up. So we still have some storage, but it's under half of what we were paying before. So
have you found a place that you find yourselves using as an anchor, I mean, meaning that
um,
you you want to go through a couple of days just because you like it so much?
yeah. Well, like I said, Spain. We'll
Hmm.
always go back to Spain. Um, my wife's from the Philippines. We lived in the Philippines for 3.5 years when I was working. Our older son lives there now, so we'll always go back there. So that's kind of our Europe and Asian anchor. So,
Okay. What are your top? I know I asked you this question, and I know it was hard for you to pick, but I'm gonna put you on the spot again. You gotta
yep.
pick top five places of all the 60 countries, or 60
Okay.
plus countries,
So
and
we usually
not
do
countries,
this.
but cities. Maybe cities
Okay.
instead of countries.
Yep. So we usually do this by continent. So I'll start there.
Okay.
So Asia is probably Osaka, Japan, which you know well,
Hmm. Yeah.
and we got to know really well a couple years ago. It's amazing. Um, Americas is Peru,
Hmm.
Cusco, and Lima. Unbelievable food. amazing history. We're both big history buffs, especially me, and nature. So you really have all three there. The only thing Peru is, not great on is political stability. They go through
Yeah.
cycles more than others, unfortunately. So then Europe is Spain, Andalusia, southern Spain. There's That's probably our top region in the whole world. So we just wish we could afford it to stay there the whole time, or figure out a way to get a visa to stay longer than 90 days. So and
Oh, there
then
is a way. There is a way. All you have to do is buy a property for more than 250K, and
yeah,
you're
the
set.
non-lucrative visa. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're not prepared to do that yet. So I guess I'll amend my statement that we know how we can do it. We're just not prepared yet to anchor ourselves down that much. And then actually, Turkey, Istanbul was crazy, but it's an incredible city,
Yeah,
and
I
it's
agree with
big
that.
and diverse, and we need to explore more of that too.
That's interesting that all your places have amazing food. I mean, I consider Peruvian food number one in the world. At least I have been 55 countries, most of that for work, obviously, right?
Hmm. Right.
And nowhere I have eaten, like I've eaten in Peru. Japan, of course. Uh,
Yeah.
Spain, of course. I mean, so you've hit places that, interestingly enough, have phenomenal
So
cuisine.
food is one of the reasons we love to travel.
Yeah,
We absolutely get into the food. We'll go to the local farmers market and buy the fresh produce and buy the fresh fish and whatever meats they've got, and we'll eat in an authentic restaurant, and then we'll try to duplicate that at home. So, although some countries like Vietnam don't even try,
no,
it's
no
just
way.
cheaper to eat it in the restaurant.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. How do you travel with like cooking utensils and
yes,
spices and
so that's one of the things we can't give up. So, first of all, as a Filipina, my wife needs her soy sauce. She needs her spice packs. She needs like we have a little egg pan. It's a non-stick, very small, good enough to cook one egg. It's amazing how difficult it is to get a decent pan to cook a freaking egg in an Airbnb. And we've got a spatula to go with that. We've got our own cloth napkins that we picked up in Guatemala because they're just so handy to have rather than relying on paper towels or whatever. We actually bought a knife in Kyoto, Japan, a
there
chef's
you go.
knife. So that kind of limits how we travel. Actually, we took the train from Portugal to Belgium, but our son lives in Belgium, so we shipped our big luggage and our knife ahead, so we didn't have to worry about train security because they would have confiscated it in Spain. So
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. So that is something to think about. Is what you have to carry and how that alters your
yes,
transportation.
yes.
Yeah. No, you mentioned Osaka, and as you remember, I was there for about 6 months on a project back in the '90s, and still have lifelong friends over there. What a great,
Mm.
great city, great culture, great food,
Great
great
food.
history.
Yeah.
Is fantastic. And by the way, Spain, I don't know, when you were there in southern Spain, I remember commenting to you on social media, make sure you go to Mijas Pueblo. Uh,
Yeah. We didn't make it to Mijas. So.
yeah, next time, make sure you make it. It's just a 20-minute drive from Malaga,
Oh,
uh,
okay.
west. Um, but it's absolute. That is a place. I was actually very close to buying a two-bedroom, two-bathroom
Oh,
apartment
okay.
there that I wanted to
Okay.
kind of rent out,
Mm-hmm.
and then use myself maybe 2 months out of the year.
Mm-hmm.
It is the icon of that place is that it's number one. It's built on the hillside, so
Mm-hmm.
the terrain goes up pretty quickly
Yep.
from the ocean. In Fuengirola, which is the town
Yep.
by the ocean, and it goes straight up very very quickly. Uh, so no two buildings are the same level. right? So
Right.
everything.
Right.
And number two, by law, every building has to be white.
Hmm. Okay.
So every it is so pictoric, and the
Yeah.
food and the people, it's just fantastic. And
Yeah.
every apartment gets a view of the Mediterranean because you're on the side of a hill. So
Okay.
I absolutely love it, and I have to go back at some point and see what I can do
Yeah.
there. So those are
Nice.
your top places.
Hmm.
What about uh, places that you really want to go to that you haven't been to yet?
Oh goodness. Jordan and Israel and other Middle East. We did Egypt. We just got back from Egypt, last month. So that was a checking off the list. South Africa, Kenya, yeah, the Caucasus too, Georgia,
Yeah,
Azerbaijan,
yeah,
Armenia, and then work our way through the stand, Central Asia,
right, right. All
Kyrgyzstan,
this time,
Tajikistan,
Kazakhstan. Yeah.
Uzbekistan.
Are you guys gonna make it up to Nepal?
Altitude. So Peru was a good test. You know,
How
to
did you
manage
do?
altitude. I'm much better with it than she is, but Nepal, we're gonna figure it out. Yeah,
I have a friend that's coming back from over there. He did base camp. He hiked up to base
yeah.
camp.
My brother hiked the base camp, so
Yeah, so he's in his mid 60s, and he had been training. He went, to Kilimanjaro, and he did a whole bunch of other
hmm,
mountains just to get himself ready for that. People, I think, take that for granted.
yes.
It is definitely something to keep in mind. Um, how has your uh, luggage evolved over the 4 years?
So we have actually reduced. We had a lot more weight than we do now. So, but we still have 23 kilogram, 50-pound two bags, one each, and then one medium backpack and one small bag. So it's a lot more than some people we know carry, and they tell us we're crazy. But like good pillow, we have our own pillows, so we need a suitcase to carry that. We try to have 3 seasons of clothes, so that even with layers, that still adds up. Like we've got a small kitchen, mini
Hmm.
kitchen, supplies, cooking, and spices, and all that. So, um, but we have gotten rid of a lot of things that are one use, or everything we have to try to have more than one use, like especially clothing, layers. We've got pants, long pants with zippers, so they're shorts or they're long pants.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, T-shirts can either be worn as an undershirt or by itself. So we have very, very few single use items.
Let me ask you. This is an interesting question. Just came to me, but how much of the United States have you included in this adventure?
Not a whole lot. Now, when we first quit our jobs, we drove to Las Vegas. We were living in Denver, Colorado. We drove to Las Vegas, used my sister-in-law's address as our base address, and dumped our stuff in a storage locker there. And then we drove cross country and picked up a few new states along the way to visit my family in Virginia before we flew out. But right now with the costs, and especially in the U.S., the U.S. months are always by far our most expensive months. So that
Mm,
it just damages our budget. And especially now, with the situation,
yeah,
we're not, we don't want to go back to the U.S. any more than we have to.
yeah. No, I could. Hey, I'm here. I can totally relate right now. It's it's
Yeah,
it's it's been a tough couple of months for most of us, if not all of us here. Well, Matt, this is. I find this fascinating. I find it
yeah.
fascinating the fact that, and I hope that the people who are listening realize that, okay, you've chosen to do this for as long as you want, right?
Yes.
As long as you can, as long as you want, and you figured out that you can do this on a budget of 50K a year, and that's what works for you, that's what works for your wife. But I find it fascinating that that's the number. Somewhere between
Mm.
40, when we talk, it's like between 40 and 60, so 50, give and take.
Yeah.
Anybody can take a year off if they have the 50K.
Right.
You can get
Right.
this done. You can just go, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And depending on the countries and depending on the travel, you can stretch that out, or you can maybe get a little bit more comfort. But that is that is not unreasonable for what you're, including, the airfare and all this
Yeah.
other stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
that's very doable.
It really was, and that was what just floored us when we started looking into it. Is that it is way more affordable than we had any idea. And we're kind of in the middle of budgets of people that we know. There's some people that they'll like buy a car or buy a camper van and then sink that upfront cost, so their monthly cost is nothing. And then when they're done with it, they resell it and they get some of that money back. So they can live really cheaply relative to what we're doing.
Wow.
So, and then there's some people that are, just much higher budget that they have the finances to support it. But no, we are comfortable. Every now and then, we get a situation in an apartment that is not great, and it ruins our week. But we're seeing amazing places at our pace, eating amazing food, and not feeling stressed about money.
Have you gotten sick during that time, and did you need to get medical
Yeah.
attention? And that was
So we've gotten COVID once.
hmm,
We've gotten a few stomach issues,
that's
Montezuma's
okay.
revenge and stuff like that. Um, we get medical checkups every year, so to make sure that everything's doing well, and more comprehensive than you generally get in the U.S. So blood work, cardiovascular, sonograms for livers and stuff. So I do have a couple minor hernias that need to get taken care of. So going to be looking to get that surgery. So probably out in Asia, Philippines or Malaysia, and you know take 2 months there to get the surgery and recover. But so far no broken bones, no ER visits. So we've been
Oh,
very fortunate that way.
no, that's
And
great.
that's number one. Health and time are the two things that we have the least control over.
Yeah,
We can do things to guard our health and to eat the right food and exercise, but ultimately it's out of our hands. So we're glad that we're old enough or young enough and healthy enough to do this, because one bad spill or one heart attack or whatever, and things could change
you
in a
know,
flash.
yeah, very, very quickly. So we are running out of time, Matt. I told you, blink of an eye, and the time just goes by. I like to always three things for my audience: inspire, educate, and challenge. Three thoughts along those lines to leave the folks with.
So inspire. Hopefully, what I've said has helped. That there's a way for you to do it for you. The way we're doing it doesn't work for anyone but us, or at least not everything we're doing. So but it is possible for everyone. And um, challenge is start planning as soon as you possibly can. Financially, getting rid of stuff, anything that holds you back, start shedding it as soon as you can. And then, it's going to be cheaper than you thought it was. It's going to be way more amazing than we thought it was. We're still, pinch ourselves. We still can't believe we're actually doing this most days. So it's just, is it literally a dream come true?
No, that is great. That is great. I mean, I challenge, especially people here in the United States, to go out and travel. I mean, I meet so many people, and you met so many people too that have never even gotten a passport. And I think of you, and I think of someone wrote a long, long time ago, and we're talking about 300 AD. Said, um, "Life is a book, and those who don't travel never go past the first page."
That's one of my favorite quotes.
Yeah, and the other quote is that travel is the only thing money can buy that actually makes you richer. And Matt, you and your wife are an inspiration. And since I heard an inspiration to
Well,
me, since I
thank
heard that
you.
you doing this, I'm like, this is fantastic. I've been meaning to have you on the podcast. Sorry it took so long.
Thanks.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
having me.
Oh, thank
We
you
worked
for
it out.
yeah, thank you for taking the time. And I guess hopefully maybe we'll share a beer in October if you have the time.
Yeah. Or if you're back on the road, maybe we'll intersect.
That will sound great, man. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Take care. Good to talk to you, Ralph.